It's just great to have a crowd in North Orange. And I'm Debbie Kent, Friends of the Orange Public Libraries, and I'm so bored because we asked people to sign up, and we got 14 who signed up, and all of you showed up, so wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And we do have flyers of Live Local Legends, the 3 programs that we are putting on. Alan Young is next on March 30th, and I know many of you know Alan, and he has engaging articles in the newspaper at all times. And of course, we're going to have Diane Salcido in April, and she's off on some traction blog, and she'll be doing something on vegetable growing, April 13th. So if anybody would like any of these to stick on your refrigerators, so to remember to come, please do take them, and I'll just leave them on the table. And do help yourselves to refreshments whenever. And if you get the urge during the program, I'm sure that you can sneak up. So tonight we are delighted to have Zib. I got to know Zib way, way back when she was kindergarten teacher, and I was hired here as a speech therapist, and we've known each other, of course, all these long years, and that was 30 years ago. And she's about as knowledgeable as anybody in the area on the Quabbin and the 4 towns, and has written 3 books. So we're going to hear what she has to say, and Terry's going to be our man of the hour with this system, which I've kind of rigged up. I knew we needed a mic, so Helene Holmes got me the mic, and we've got an amplifier, and so between all of us, we'll be sure and be able to hear, because it is not always easy to hear in this space. Everybody needs to shut off their cell phones. From what I was told, it may be on the same, I don't know what you call it, whether it's on the same dimension. That's not the right word. Frequency. Yeah. I know we're all in the same dimension, but anyway, it's not in the same frequency, and so there may be some interference. So without further ado, and we welcome you. Oh, Jane, is Jane still here?
Yep, I'm here.
How did you turn on the...
At the mic. There's a switch at the mic.
Just at the mic. This is already on?
Yep, I didn't touch the big thing.
Okay. And then if it doesn't work, we'll...
Testing it already. We have
And if it's too loud, we can turn it down, I think.
How is that for sound?
That's pretty good.
Good. You will indulge me when I sort of read my notes, because I'm old and I'm a little out of practice. Many books have been written about the Quabbin Valley, but the one that was written in 1938 by a gentleman named Donald Howe, Quabbin, the Lost Valley, is the one that I refer to when I really want the facts about the people and the places. And to introduce my story, I would like to read some excerpts from the preface of his book. This book has been written to provide a historical and pictorial story of a valley that is no more. When a great new water supply was needed for the towns and cities, primarily Boston, the Swift River Valley was swept clear by a huge man-made flood. Gone are the people, the homes, and businesses, which through the years have made this area independent and successful communities where generations have trod, where families were born and died, and is now under billions of gallons of water. Even the huge watershed has been so altered that it is not recognizable by the former residents. Long before April 26, 1937, when the state legislature approved an act to take the Quabbin Valley and create the Quabbin Reservoir, the seeds were being sown, which would sprout and culminate in the destruction of the Swift River Valley. By 1895, rumors were casting shadows over the area, and in 1922, the first survey was made, which in the final reckoning meant the death of the valley. And this is the end of Mr. Howe's quotes. The full moon of January 2017 shone down on the Quabbin Valley just as it had since the beginning of time. The snow sparkled in the moonlight, the trees creaked and groaned in the wind, and the coyotes howled their blood-curdling, mournful cry. The Indians called it the hungry moon because food was scarce. It was an eerie wilderness, and that is how it is today. Today, however, it's a controlled wilderness, controlled by the DCR, which those initials stand for the Division of Conservation and Recreation. But there was a time on such a night that the air was filled with the sound of laughter, the jingle of sleigh bells, the squeaking of snow underfoot, and the slashing sound of skates on the pond, and the clip-clop of horses' hoofs on the snow-capped, winding roads. There was no equipment for cleaning the roads. It was called pathing the roads for the sleighs. There was human habitation in the valley, however, from the early 1700s to 1938. There were sleigh rides, sliding and skating parties, bonfires, oyster and game suppers, square dances, and taffy pulls. Parties running the gamut of the imagination. In the Grange Hall in Prescott, babies were bedded down on the benches to sleep while their parents danced the night away. People found fun for all seasons, but only after the work was done. That's how it was, how it used to be. The Quabbin is a man-made lake in the middle of Massachusetts. It's 13 miles long, 2.5 miles wide, and filled with billions of gallons of water. The water captured to fulfill a human need. It is distributed to over 50 towns and cities to the east. The average depth is 45 feet, but the deepest part is over the former town of Greenwich, 141 feet. Money for this mammoth project was appropriated by the legislature in 1927, and the project was completed in 1946. Visualize a huge bathtub being filled by 3 streams of water. The middle branch flows right behind the Swift River Valley Historical Society buildings in North New Salem. The first rumblings of using the valley for such a project were heard prior to 1890. No one believed that such a project could ever happen. That is, until the government men began showing up with their survey equipment and their cameras, making pictures, taking measurements, and making offers to buy the property. People were reminded that the land could be taken by eminent domain if necessary. There's a little threat in there. The first sale of land was in Enfield, and after that, like a house of cards, others followed. The average price was $108 an acre. It was a massive project and a monumental piece of engineering, which included the towns of Dana, Enfield, Greenwich, Prescott, and parts of New Salem. By January 1938, the 2,500 residents remaining were notified by registered mail that, quote, the land now occupied by you is needed by the MDC, end of quote. All evidence of human habitation would be destroyed. So if anyone tells you that they've seen church spires sticking up out of the water, it's just not there. The 7,500 souls resting in what they believed to be their final resting place were exhumed and transferred to other or to the newly created Quabbin Park Cemetery in Ware, which had been purchased in 1932 for $266,000. The cemetery is not laid out in any particular order. However, the MDC, which stands for the Metropolitan District Commission, has accurate plans available to locate special burial plots. On the Sunday before Memorial Day, a very moving service is held at the cemetery. The grave of every serviceman is decorated with a flag. The final days of life in the valley were not pleasant. The elder generation was suffering, sad, worried, and confused. The younger generation may have looked upon it as a chance for a different adventure. To perhaps ease the pain of it all, a huge farewell ball had been planned, with music and dancing and refreshments. Incidentally, the refreshments included Dixie cups and Ritz crackers. A huge crowd attended. Many found it too sad and stayed away. At midnight, the orchestra blasted Old Lang Syne, and it was all over. Among those who hadn't left yet were the students at the Greenwich Plains School who were finishing out the school term. There were 3 8th grade boy graduates, one who later became my husband. As people were leaving the valley, they took what they could to begin a new life elsewhere. It was the Depression. There were few options. Families moved however they could, wherever they could, taking only the essentials. Many items left behind were too precious to leave for the thieves, of which there were many, and the logical place to leave things seemed to be the tiny New Salem library, which soon was filled to overflowing, and a new place had to be found, and found in a hurry. By a stroke of luck, the Metropolitan District Commission had changed its plans to demolish all the buildings on Elm Street in North New Salem. Those pieces of property included the large colonial house built by Judge William Whitaker in 1816. An offer was made representing the interests of the museum, and the MDC jumped at the chance to be rid of it. They sold it for $5 and $35 to process the deed. The property includes approximately 4 acres, and it is in the watershed. After many weeks of cleaning and repairing by dedicated volunteers, the building became the Swifter Valley Historical Society and opened to the public in 1964. The name Whitaker Cleary was derived from the only two families who ever owned it and lived in it. Yankees were notorious savers. They still are. And because of this, we have a rare opportunity to know what life was like through our very large collection of saved items. The collection wasn't planned, it just happened. It grew, and after 60 years, it continues to grow through the generosity and kindness of caring people. We probably get 10 to 25 donations of one kind and another. Sometimes it will be one letter. Sometimes it will be a whole box of things. With the many treasures from the past, we gather information about what kind of furniture people had, what kind of dishes they ate from, what they ate, how their food was prepared and preserved, how they planned their gardens, how they ordered their seeds, how they earned money, and how they kept warm. We neither buy nor sell, but we collect and document very carefully bits of paper with notes, diaries, Bibles, genealogies, school registers, notebooks of many kinds with recipes. The list is endless, and of course pictures, hundreds of them. Who could not be fascinated by such a window on the past? Imagine life with a family of 10 to 12 children, no electricity, no running water, no bathrooms, no central heat, no Walmart either. We can't go back and experience how it was, but because of memory, which is the greatest gift of all, we can know what it was like in a time that once was and is no more. One of the frequent questions that's asked by visitors is, they couldn't get away with that sort of thing today, could they? Followed by, or could they? Prescott had a group of people called a crowd of kindness. It wasn't any particular people, it was just people that had time to be kind. And they were ready to assist anyone who was in need, whether it was a wood pile that needed to be cut and stacked, or whether it was a field of potatoes that needed to be harvested. They would just show up and take the task on. The Grange was originally established to improve farming skills. Because a family organization, and it became a family organization. The Nipmuc Indians hunted and fished in the valley in the summer and left for winter quarters in the fall. Greenwich was originally called Quaben, which is an Indian name meaning many waters. I have some information on the formation of the towns. Greenwich was incorporated in 1754, which made it very old. In 1801, Dana was incorporated. Dana was the name of Francis Dana, who assisted the town in negotiating its incorporation. Enfield was named in honor of Robert Field, who was a manufacturer who came to town and was very popular. So they said, we'll name the town for you. That was in 1816. In 1822, Prescott was named for Colonel William Prescott, who commanded the forces at Charleston in 1822. Caleb Pierce was commissioned to secure the name, and he was commissioned to secure the name of Warren for the town of Prescott. But when he got there, he found that he was 2 hours late, and someone else had already chosen their name. And so he chose Prescott on the spot. Prescott was the first of the towns to turn their remaining business over to the state. There were 3 selectmen. One said no. Not that he thought it wasn't going to happen, but he said he could never live with it on his conscience if he voted yes. That happened to be my father-in-law. There were 6 generations of Pierces who lived in the Atkinson Hollow section of Prescott. And if you drive down Route 202 and you go into the Cloven there, Atkinson Hollow is the first place that you will come to. Now, what else do I need to tell you? Prescott is the only town that has a written history. And they had a person named Lily Coolidge who started out to write some things that she thought were worth writing down and realized that, well, maybe it should be a town history. And so she did that. Palm leaf hats were manufactured originally in Dana, and it was a cottage industry. The women purchased small amounts of the palm braid, the palm that was used for the braid, and it would have to be soaked and split, and then they would braid it into hats, and then a man with a horse and wagon would come and pick up the finished hats, take them back to the factory where they would put the bindings and finish them up, and they were shipped all over the world. New Salem Academy was founded in 1795 in response to a need for higher education. And as many of you know, that was still in operation in the 1960s. There was the Hillside School in Greenwich, which was established in 1901 by 2 sisters who inherited the property and wanted to do something worthwhile with it. And they started a home and school for young boys who needed schooling and probably came from families that were too big to see that they didn't get further education. And it was very well known. In in the late 1929, there was a fire there, and they knew that they were going to get kicked out of the valley anyway. So they moved to Marlborough, and the Hillside School, by the same name, still exists on Robin Hill in Marlborough. And it's already had, of course, a 200th anniversary. There were artists, writers, sculptors, doctors, dentists, musicians, and of course, patriots. We don't forget Daniel Shea in the Patriot list. Of the sculptors, two from Greenwich were very well known. Edward Clark Potter and Daniel Chester French. And among the things that they sculpted were the lions that stand in front of the New York City Library. There's also on the Boston Common a statue of General Hooker, and that was made by these two gentlemen. The museum has 22 pastel pictures of different homes that were in the valley, which were done by a lady named Olive Mould. And those are hanging in different rooms in the museum. The museum is open mid-June to the end of September, and we're open on Wednesdays and Sundays from 1 to 4. We have a lot of special programs, and we, in general, have a wonderful time here meeting people. And I didn't tell you, we have memorial trees planted around the grounds in memory of different people. Ida McKinney, that some of you know. And we're also on very good terms with the gentleman over at the MDC building, who will do just about anything for a batch of brownies. So I could answer questions, or I could try to if you have questions. And
Mrs. Pierce, could you tell me where I could learn more about the purchase of the Ware Cemetery and the cemetery itself?
Yes. You could find out about that at the Visitor Center.
No,
Mhm.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, what is the name of the cemetery?
Quabbin Park Cemetery.
Robin Park, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd be interested to know some of the history of your in-laws' house. Did they have to sell it and move somewhere else at that time? You said he was
When-
8 years old?
Yeah, in 1930, my husband was old enough to go to school, but there were no schools left in Prescott. In fact, I think I just read that there was only one pair of horses that could plow the roads. And my mother-in-law was very insistent on having my husband be in school. And that was when they moved to Greenwich. And they lived in Greenwich until he was graduated from 8th grade. Did that answer the question? Good.
Deb, what were the populations of the 4 different towns that were taken? Any clue?
I could take a wild guess, but I could tell you that they were all small populations. And over the years, the population diminished as people knew that they were going to have to leave anyway. I think for instance, there were only 6 voters left in Prescott at the time that they decided to give up. That information is available, though.
Population.
How did, or do you know why Cliff decided to move to Orange, or the family?
That I don't know. I wish I did. His parents didn't ever talk about, and a lot of people never talked about the Quabbin experience. They, that was over and done with, and they didn't want to think about it.
over in North and Salem, where you are, of all this that was going on.
There's probably enough newspapers to fill this room.
Well, my father-in-law took the MDC to court. He went to Boston, and of course he lost. But they took the expenses that they incurred and away from the money that they had offered him. He said that, they didn't offer him enough money, because he had a business and his home and livelihood, and they took it all, but he didn't think he got enough money, so he took him to court. And my mother was telling me about how they characterized him as a grumpy old man, and you couldn't deal with him, but he was fighting for really his life.
There were, in our newspaper accounts, and there are many, believe me, the letters that people wrote.
Yeah.
So many letters that people wrote that said, well, don't worry about this, it's never going to happen anyway. It can't happen because this.
If the right people wanted to do something like this again, I think it might happen.
Well,
We hope not.
In those days, it took 2 days to get to Boston. And not everybody was equipped to do that. And the people did protest.
Yeah.
But their protests were more or less ignored.
There's a get-together on the third Saturday in July, third Sunday in July. The gates are open, and you go down to Dana Common, have a picnic.
Right.
And as many as possible. I go every year.
Yeah. And every year, that crowd gets bigger.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
You can drive.
The relatives,
You can drive it.
yes, on that day, right to the cottage.
And on the Dana Common, of course, they put markers for a lot of where the buildings used to be.
Yeah, that was done by Haley Clark, a Girl Scout project by Haley Clark from Barry.
Did you spend your early years in one of those towns?
I didn't. I grew up in Orange.
Okay.
How did it affect a town like Orange with all this going on?
Some people moved out of the Quabbin and moved into Orange, but it didn't have a big effect. I don't know how to answer that question better for you, but
I wonder, did it increase the population? Did it increase, some of the commerce?
not markedly.
Zib, were some of the Pierce family homes moved out, or were they all destroyed?
They were destroyed. There were a few houses in the Quabbin, of course, that were moved intact. But for the most part, materials, people bought it from salvage, or they tore something down and rebuilt something different. There are a couple of houses on South Main Street in Orange that were moved from the Quabbin. You're looking like a question, and I should be able to tell you where it is.
Wasn't one of them beside the Methodist church?
Yep.
And now it's gone?
No, it's on Fairman Road now.
Oh, okay. And South Main Street also, I believe. Right.
It's on South Main Street. There are a couple of houses on South Main Street. One of them has a lot of little gingerbread trim, and it's on the left side as you're going down South Main Street.
Where's Steve Jordan live?
Speaking of, a lot of children came to Peter Sam School. I went to Peter Sam, and a lot of the children came to Peter Sam schools.
There was only one Catholic church in the valley, Before that, Catholic people went to Petersham to church. Mr. Crawford, who was a manufacturer, was from Ireland, and his wife was from Ireland also. And when they came here, she was very lonesome for her church. And so he built St. Anne's Church in Dana, and he named it St. Anne in her honor. And after that church, when it was taken apart, it was the pulpit and the communion set and various things went to the Pseudo land in South Africa. Because it was a mission church.
Growing up in Orange, we knew as kids there was severe resentment amongst the people who'd been displaced. When we moved out onto our present house in '78, the gentleman who lived across the street, kind of a curmudgeon, said that I'm taking a gun and I'm going to Boston. I'm going to get those bastards. That was Arthur. You remember him.
There were a number of papers around the perimeters of the towns that were taken down. The Barrie Gazette goes into the mid-1800s. I think there was an Athol paper at the time, and I'm sure on the other side of the Quabbin there were also papers. Did any of them have editorials and that perhaps reached Boston protesting?
The newspapers, did the newspapers have
Yes.
editorials? Yes. And we have piles of newspapers and many boxes of clippings. You know, keep making scrapbooks was a favorite pastime. And some of you people will know who this was. Harold Brown, who was the organist at the Congregational Church in Orange for many years, he and his mother just cut out clippings indiscriminately from the newspapers and made scrapbooks and pasted them in because they thought that people in nursing homes would like to look at them. And we have actually on a bookshelf down there, we have 200 scrapbooks.
Where would the students from the valley towns go to high school?
Oh, okay. They had a choice. They could be tuition to Belchertown, or they could go Belchertown or
Ethel.
well, wherever it was on the rabbit train run.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I
Right.
wasn't sure.
Right.
The rabbit run.
Because the rabbit train went down in the morning and came back, and went down in the afternoon and came back. And so that was convenient.
I heard of somebody who went to Springfield and would go to Springfield and maybe stay in Springfield during the week and then come back on the weekend.
They could. They could if they, wanted to. The towns were pretty good about tuitioning, paying the tuition. Because there were no high schools. Of course, there was New Salem Academy, but that was sort of, well, I think a lot of the local people went there, but it was mostly a live-in academy.
Were there any stone walls left when they flooded the valley?
Would you say that again?
Were there any stone walls left when they flooded the valley?
Were there any stone walls left? There are many stone walls, many, many. And that's one of the rules they have about the Quabbin is you leave nothing but footprints when you go there. You leave nothing and you take nothing. So nobody is supposed to take any of those stones off the stone walls.
What about under? Did they move them out when they flooded it? I think she's asking, like, did they move them out from under the water? The ones that were there already?
The
Or the stone foundation from the houses? They dismantled everything?
They mostly filled up the foundations if there was anything left. They bulldozed it in. And the same with wells. They pretty much intended to fill up all the wells.
There's a special that was on Chronicle about divers that go under the water.
And did you see it? Like, did they see the stone wall?
Yes.
Did they
Yeah.
see how much
Yes.
it's
On PBS, they have a
Right now,
Quabbin
the water
show.
is very low. You can see stone walls all over the place. You can tell where the roads are. And there are the foundations. You can see where the outer rim is above the foundations. There's a lot of places to go hiking. Right now, it's very, very low.
I love the film at the library in the center one, too. Under the Quabbin, I forget what it's called.
Nobody's going to ask about rattlesnakes. There were rattlesnakes there. Among the clippings that we have, I found one recently that Mr. So-and-so met up with a rattlesnake and he killed it.
But was he one of those guys known for the big fish stories?
No, I don't think so.
Isn't there a hill named Rattlesnake Hill?
Yes.
So you can assume that was based on the fact they lived there.
They still don't know where that 21 wolves are, that they dropped off there, right?
The
21. PCR dropped off 21 wolves in the Quabbin Reservoir, and then they lost them. They went.
When was
probably
that?
a decade ago.
About 20 years ago? No, because it was during the deer problem. Too many deer were eating up the vegetation, and they went to use hunters, but then people were putting branches on their head walking through the woods protesting, so they decided to use wolves. I was at the...
It's very interesting, the things that people are inspired to do research on. I had 2 requests today for information on apple orchards. And how could they find out if there were any apple orchards? And where would they go for the information?
They can go to the Quabbin Visitors Center next Sunday and listen to the talk.
That's exactly what was my answer.
Do you know anything about the structures that are on the Atherton Brook?
Do I know
Anything about the structures that used to be on the Atherton Brook? There's, when you go to the Atherton Brook, there's this whole dam and lots of walls, and you wonder whether it was a mill or what was there before.
And where is this?
I said it would probably be New Salem. It's off that side, the Atherton Brook. I think it's around gate 10 or 11, somewhere down there. Oh, that's Pelham? Oh, it would be Pelham.
that'd be way down.
Maybe it's Pelham.
There are stone foundations in Dana.
Oh, this one is, it's a dam that's still there, and it's very interesting.
There's a gentleman from Northfield, I believe his name is Mr. Johnson, and there was a gentleman from Northfield, Mass, his name was Mr. Johnson, and he said when he worked there was tunnels through the dam. Is there any pictures in your historical society that show the tunnels?
Not that I know of.
Do you have pictures of the actual workers working on the dam at all?
Oh, we have hundreds of pictures, and unfortunately, most of them are not labeled. So, you could look at pictures and maybe you could tell what it was, but they're not labeled so that we know.
And his family owns land near the opposite road.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know how close or where, I just know it was.
How many
some
books have you published?
I've done 3. And they're pictures with text that go with each picture. And no, there's not going to be any more. I think I fairly well covered the subject in that area, unless I get an inspiration.
I remember my father we had a dump truck. He lived in Granby on a farm, and it was the Depression, and they would hire him to haul stone, rock, big rocks, at the Quabbin when they needed him. And we would then take rides over. He would take us in the touring car and on the weekend. And I remember the barren hills and the smoke from the burning logs.
Right. People tell about the smoke from the debris that was left. Of course, the idea was to get rid of everything.
Yeah.
And how the air was filled with smoke for days.
Yes.
Incidentally, Dana was the only town that had a motorized fire truck. And we have that fire truck at the museum.
Oh, that's the one. So I knew the Parker family, Linda Parker and Linda Smith.
Yep.
And her sister Honey was my best friend.
Linda is one of our people.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm kind of curious, and it's always fascinated me that the people that live there, they get a letter in the mail that says, you're going to have to move, this is, your house is going to be gone, or going to tear it down, and they have no choice. But now, how did they come up with the value? Did they give them the fair market value of the property?
They didn't attempt to tell them how much the houses, the buildings were worth. They only assessed the property, the land.
So they didn't get anything for the building?
They didn't consider that, and of course the buildings were pretty run down by then because it was the Depression and people had it hanging over their heads and they weren't going to paint their house if they thought somebody was going to take it away from them anyway. So the idea was they were paid for the land but not the buildings.
Is that fair?
No. Nobody said any of it was fair.
Did everybody end up getting paid, or did they take property by eminent domain?
You have to pay.
I don't think they have taken a few things by eminent domain. Of course, there was a big controversy about the golf course that was there because the people who purchased the land for the golf course knew that the valley was going to be taken, but they saw an opportunity to make money. And so they set up a very elaborate golf course there and attracted people from Boston and Springfield and in the final analysis, they sued the state for more money. And they did get some, but they didn't get all of what they were asking for.
Was that in Enfield?
Thank you very much. We are, as I said, delighted to have Zib. And if you are interested in coming to the other programs, you call the library to reserve a spot. So I have a number, so I have enough chairs. Nobody has to stand. And if you'd like to help yourself to refreshments, please do. Thank you all for coming.
Debbie, can I just make
Yes.
one more announcement?
Yes.
So, we didn't say this already, but the Swift River Valley Historical Society, so I'm Jane Pierce, I'm her kid. I'm the treasurer. We have a website, and we do programs, we do hikes into the Quabbin and bus tours into the Quabbin. They're wonderful. You'll find them all listed on our website, if you just Google Swift River Valley Historical Society. We would love to have you join us. We do take members, we're always looking for interested board members and community members, and you would all be so welcome to join us on any of our activities. And Dot Fry is our administrator, so, she's also a well-known person. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great.